Hello everyone, it's me, Fagin Star, and welcome to part 4 of my low poly PS1 style warrior cat tutorial. In this part, we will be making the modular expressions for Forest Wind. Alright, so first let's start out by putting it into render view. Now, I've decided to keep the little nose from last time. I just don't feel like drawing it on the mouth, and it looks fine. So let's pull this part up right here, then go over to editor type right in this corner right here, go to UV editor, go over to here, object data properties, UV maps, and turn the default UV map, rename that one to base, and then add a new UV map, and we'll call this one eyes, and then another which we will call mouth. Now, when you edit the UV map for the eyes, make sure you have eyes selected in your UV map right here. And tab into edit mode. And we will be grabbing these two faces right here and setting those to the side. And then we will grab the rest of the faces, select all of those, press S and then 0 to scale them down to 0. Press G for grab, and then drag them off into the corner where they're off of the texture sheet. And then grab this again. Make sure to turn this back from X-ray mode. Go to unwrap. Oh, actually, make sure to only have these two faces selected. And then hit unwrap. Then rotate that by -90. You just pull up this little tab and type -90 right here. Just try to rotate it till it looks nice and even. Go ahead and just unwrap them both individually, actually. Okay, and that looks about good. We can edit it if it isn't working out. Let me try to flip these around by scaling them -1 on the x-axis. Yeah, that looks like it might be a little bit better. And scale this one, make 1 like that. Then save that as Forest Wind Eyes X. Export that. And then while you're still hovered over the eyes, press the plus 1 more time and call this one iris. This will be important later. Now let's go to the mouth. Select the faces that we want the mouth to be on. Grab those and drag them off to the side. Then select the rest of the faces. Hit S. Then 0. Drag that off into the little corner where we can't see it. And then once again, select all the mouth faces. Unlike with the eyes, you can go ahead and have them all laid out on the UV map. So then that way you can give your character asymmetrical mouth expressions. Unless you want all your mouth expressions to be symmetrical, then just do the same thing with the eyes, where you select one half at a time and overlay them. Okay. Should unwrap that. Flip that. Make sure it's sitting nice. Make sure that it is sitting nice and flat. Or at least as flat to the as you can rotate it to be. And let's go ahead and export UV layout and export this as forest wind mouth text. Okay, now that's all the setup we need to do for the UV map. Make sure to save it. Then go into Fire Alpaca, and I already have my concept for the character open. And then grab both of them and drag them in or open them up however you want. Now, let's start with the mouth textures. Once again, we will name the UV layer UVs. Then we will add one layer. Call this, like, let's make a little pouty face. Let's call this one pout. Okay. Now let's go ahead and draw your expression. And then duplicate it, and let's make this one pout. Oh, pout. Cut pout out. Pout. Open. You can make as many mouth expressions as you want, but for this, and like for me personally, I usually have like about 50 that I try to make for each of my characters. Well, 50 total expressions that I try to make for each of my characters, but that takes several hours. So, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna do 2 to show the system and how it works. And in theory, the system that I use is infinitely scalable, so you can make as many eye and mouth expressions as you want. Okay, so for pout open, can clear up a little. Oh, forgot about that. Clear up a little bit of that. Make it look a little bit thinner so that we can add this. Okay, and now I will draw the teeth. Now, if you want to draw, now usually when I make mouth expressions, I'll do the mouth closed, and then I'll do an open mouth with just teeth showing, because I don't really like drawing the inside of mouths. It kind of looks awkward when I do it. But if you want to just draw the inside of the mouth, or if you want to do a teeth variation and an open mouth variation, you're free to do so. Just know that that's a lot more work. Okay, now I'm going to draw the teeth. And look nice and pointy, because this is a cat, and cats are carnivores. Okay, now under Pout Open, I'm going to color in the teeth. Now, one thing I would recommend when you color in teeth is do not use solid white. I would recommend doing a color that's slightly off white, since solid white is, you can't put any highlight on it, but you can use a light color and it will still read as being white. Of course, if you don't care about highlighting and shading or whatever, you can go ahead and use solid white if that's what you prefer to do. I mean, I'm not gonna stop you. I'm not a cop. Okay, then add another layer, multiply, change it to multiply, do clipping, and now let's add some shading. First, start with a little bit of shading going around the edge of the mouth, where the lips go over the teeth, and then bring your brush a little bit thinner and do shading where the teeth intersect with one another. Helps give them more volume. Now, go to add a new layer, put it on clipping, and then add a little bit of highlight to the teeth. Pull that down a little bit. I like to add a little bit of a extreme highlight on the teeth. And there you go. Now we have, we can just go ahead and press these layers, since I usually don't need them for like mouth expressions, since I generally don't go back and edit them like I do with the regular textures. So go ahead and save this as a file that can save layers, so that we can have each of our individual mouth expressions, and then we'll save this out as a PNG, and we'll save it as Forest Wind mouth text 0. Now it's important that you put that 0 at the end. And then the next one we will save out as Forest Wind mouth text 1. Now it's important to start with 0 when numbering your expression textures, because Blender essentially counts 0 as being 1. So if you only start from 1, it will think that there's a missing texture. Okay, now we can work on the eyes. Call this UVs. Then we will do an initial sketch for the eye. Okay. Save this sketch. Then we will go into texture, go into the Blender file, and get started on setting up the changeable expression. So go to Shader Editor, pull this aside, go to Add Texture, Image Texture, grab another one of these. This will be for the mouth, so grab mouth 1 and mouth 2, open them, and now it opens up into these new options. Set frames to 1, and select auto refresh so that it automatically refreshes it in the viewport. Okay, and then, very important, go into input and UV map. Now this is where these UV maps come into play. Go to mouth and set and connect UV to vector. Now you should get another one of these. Input, UV map, set this one to base, connect that to the vector. Then go to color, mix RGB, drag this in so that the bottom one, the body texture, is connected to the top. Then connect the color from your mouth to color number 2, and then connect alpha into the factor. And there you go. Now the character's mouth is visible on the model. And if you click offset to go to 0, we can see the character's other expression, which I should go clean that up since the light color prevented me from seeing that it wasn't looking good. It's an easy fix though. Go in under, clean up all of that. Right. Wrong one. Put down. Count. Open. Save it out again. so that the edited mouths will be in there. Let's go ahead and save. Open it up again. And wait, this thing just does not like me. It is really hard to see under there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make a new layer. Actually, let me see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Now I can go on to this. Erase all of that. But yeah, that is something to be aware of when you work with light colors on a light background, is there's a lot of potential error that you could miss. Now that better be fixed or I'm gonna be mad. Okay. Yep, there we go. Now it looks good. Okay, now let's go ahead and edit in. Drag and select these top three, the UV, the texture, and the mix RGB node. And then press Shift and D, drag and click to duplicate it. Take this from surface, plug it into color 1, change this to eyes, then yeah, we're gonna have to edit the UVs. So go back into UV editor, delete iris, then we need to go back and edit eyes. Go around with it until it looks right. Okay, that looks good. Go ahead and save that out. Now that this is fixed, we can close that. Then add another one. Call this eye line. Lower the opacity of your sketch to make it easier to see. And make the line art for the open eye. Okay. Now with the eye lines done, add layer for the sclera. Which the sclera is the white part of the eye, but for this character, they only really have an iris, so I'm just gonna do the sclera the same color as the iris. Okay, now hide that. We will make the iris. Appropriately hide your eye lines too, so it's easier to see everything. And even if you have the upper half of the iris cut off by the eyelid, make sure to draw the whole thing. Okay, and now that you have the iris drawn, add the shading layer. Do a little bit of shading around it. Now do some shading in the center where we will put the actual pupil. Now, there's a reason why I'm putting the iris here separate from the rest of the eye, and that's because I like to add a little bit of detail onto my iris. I like to make them look nice and alive and detailed, and it's very awkward to do that, to have that detail on there and then have the pupil move around and the detail of the iris doesn't follow it. So what I usually do for characters like that is I'll simply draw the detail of the iris around the pupil, so then that way they can both move, and I'll simply have the rest of the eye that looks like the iris, I'll simply have that very simple and undetailed, so it doesn't look funky. A bit more shading into this area. Sort of like slightly blend the iris and pupil a little bit. Now add another layer. This will be the light layer. Like add a gentle initial highlight. Then go in and add little harder highlights. Now, another thing I like to add is, once again, that little highlight inside of the pupil. It's a little bit strong, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that. One. Go. And there, now we have a nice iris. Like, I don't even know what I'm naming those for since I just collapse all of that onto there. Now we can mess with the sclera proper. Add the shading. It's just like do large, heavier shade coming from the upper eyelid. Then a little bit of a smaller, just defining shade along the bottom eyelid to make the eyes look more round. Then add a little bit of a highlight to the center. And there we go. This is our open eye. Now, similar with the mouth, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm only going to do an open eye and a closed eye. Now again, same with the mouth. You can do as many eye expressions as you want. In theory, the system that I use is infinitely scalable. Like, I say in theory only because I don't think I can physically produce enough art to actually realistically test the limits of how many expressions it can handle. But here we go. Then one thing I like to do is add a folder and name this with the eye expression, calling this one neutral because it is a neutral eye. Put eye lines above the iris, and the eye lines and this iris above the sclera. Oh, and another thing I like to add are the eye lights. Just little pure white catch lights on the eye, just to indicate that, you know, it's an eyeball, it's moist. Okay, now that is the neutral eye. You can save this as Forest Wind Eyes text, and make sure to save it in a format that preserves layers so that you can keep your different expressions. Then add another folder, and we will call this one Neutral Closed. Now we can hide neutral and add a layer to neutral closed. And for this one, we only need the eye line, because it is just, this one will just simply be the closed eye. Let's go ahead and try to draw your closed eye about as long as the open eye is. And remember that when you close your eyes, your eyelid does move up slightly, and in cats specifically, since Forest Wind is indeed a cat, they tend to close their eyes more in the middle than lower down like we do in humans. And that is our closed eye. Now, make sure to save all of your eyes. And now, if you want, you can just have it so that you only have the eye expressions and the pupil, the iris/pupil doesn't move around, if you would prefer to do that. But personally, I like to have it so that my character can have their eyes sort of like look around. So if you want to simply just have your character, I'll show you how to just simply have it so that your character is just opens eyes, closes eyes, changes expression, doesn't actually look around. I'll show you how to do that. So save out your eye textures as you would your mouth textures. And then go back into Blender and go to the shader editor. Clear that out. And then open your 2 iframes. Make sure to change this to 1 frame. And then, there you go. That's all you need to do. Have it so that your character just changes expression, but they don't look around or move the position of their pupils or iris. Now, I shall show you how to have it so that your character can look around. So, one important distinction to be made here is that first thing is that the iris needs to be saved out separately. So we'll call this iris text. Okay, and then next we want to save out the lines for the eye. So let's save this out as forest wind eyes mask texture. Then you can add back in the sclera and save that out as forest wind eye texture. And then simply save out 2 copies of this blinking one. Since, you know, it's closed. It's just the line part. So save that as mask. Right, and now here is where things get even more complicated. Yay! So pull that back so we have some more room. Duplicate this. Oh, make sure to hit plus on the eyes so that you have an iris map. Save this and I'll reload to open back up all the textures. Oops this out. Open up the iris text. And now we have the iris layered on top of the eyes. Now to add a final layer to our cursed lasagna, let's change this back to the eyes layer. Then let's get in the eye masks and make sure to change that to 0 so it doesn't start animating it. Well, 1 so it doesn't start animating it on you. Then this one to there, that one to there, and there we go. Hi guys, it's Pagan Star from the future here, and something that I wanted to add that I didn't seem to notice when I originally recorded this part of the tutorial is that this way of organizing the material will not work for having the irises move around. If you're simply going to have the pupils/irises stationary on the face, then this works perfectly fine. However, if you want to have them move around where the character can look around, this will need to be organized differently, and I shall show you that now. So first things first, we need to take our iris, drag that all the way over here, and just remove these temporarily. Then I have a little thing where I took a screenshot of how to correctly arrange it, so I can check that. Okay, put that. Make sure you have the iris bit on the bottom. Then take the eyes, put that on top like that. Now, disconnect these, and we will use this node right here, and color from the eyes will go into this top slot, and the color from the iris will go into this bottom slot. And the alpha for the iris will go into the factor. Okay. Then next, we connect that to the mask. Okay, so take the color from the mask, connect it to color 2. Take the color from this mix node and put it into color 1. And take the alpha from the mask and put that into factor. Now we will be connecting this part, the mouth and the face texture, together to this mix node. Put that one into surface. Then the mix node for the main body should go into color 1. The mix node for the eye should go into color 2. And then the alpha for the eyes all the way over here needs to be connected to the factor. And there you go. That is how you can get it to work so that your character's irises can move around and they don't clip through the eyelids and onto the face. And it has to be done this specific way because Blender is actually a demon that feeds on my misery. Alright, so then we can take it back to Pagan Star from the past. It's... Now the eyes are nice and clean, and if you want to potentially avoid little things like this where it peeks just a little bit through the texture, because basically what this is doing is that it's layering the iris on top of the eye texture and then layering a masking texture on top of that, so it's not just the iris clipping through the eyelashes and the eyelid. So if you don't want it to sort of like peek through at all, what you can do is you can have the base eye texture simply be the sclera, so then that way it's completely covered over. But in my opinion, that looks like having those, like, you know, like it works, but like this by itself is pretty cursed. So I just kind of just so I don't have to have that texture existing on my computer, I just kind of deal with it. But of course, you know, you go, like, you know, feel free to do what you want. So now that concludes our tutorial for doing the modular face textures. And, like, you know, once again, like with the mouth, all you have to do is cycle through the offset, and in the rigging process I will show you how to make even that a little bit simpler. But this has been part 4 of our tutorial, and in part 5 I will show you how to rig this model. So until then, have a nice day, and thank you so very much for watching.